Hey, Huang, it's Christmas, and you're just sitting here not doing anything. You're just watching Rata videos and eating chicken nuggets. When are you ever gonna post a video? It's been like weeks. Look, man, right now is the competitive off season. We already got our Nats invite. We're gonna go to Nats. Deck profiles, not super hot right now, okay? Just, I don't know what you're expecting me to do. I mean, it's not like I could just do something really similar to what Rata does already for Archetype Archives and whatnot. Right? Right? Little did I know this gag would eventually become one of the largest projects on the Hoang and Zero channel. Like I mentioned, deck profiles aren't exactly in demand right now just because we're going to have the same format for 3 months and not a lot of events are happening to begin with, just because Nats is up so close, and so a lot of people are just winding down, relaxing for the holidays, and getting into that mindset of preparing for Nats. And so as a result, EX3 is not exactly the hottest commodity. So I thought to myself, what can we do that provides content to the viewer base while simultaneously doesn't require me to end up making a deck profile? And this is the result. Inspiration thanks to Rata and his Archetype Archives and Legacy of the Worthless videos. We're going to do something very similar to Digimon. Also, it's Christmas, so happy holidays, y'all. Anyway, the first Digimon that we're going to cover is going to be the Jesmon archetype. As you all know, this is my favorite Digimon, so yeah, just enjoy and let's get right into it. Starting us off, we're going to talk about the first level 3 in the Jesmon line, Huckmon from BT6. It is a level 3 with a play cost of 3, Digivolution cost of 0, and 2000 DP that states, on play, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 2 Digimon cards with Huckmon, Jesmon, or Sistemon in their names among them to your hand, place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. This is one of the strongest search effects in the entire Digimon card game. The only card that is stronger in terms of search power is the Blazing Memory Boost that checks top 6 as well as grabs you a Kiriha. This card is really, really important to the Jesmon deck because of how much consistency is required for the deck to pop off. A lot of the cards in the deck, you'll notice, are able to increase the consistency of your overall plays, and the reason for that is because you have a lot of cards that hurt the consistency of your deck overall. You run low counts of 4s and 5s and 6s, noticeably in comparison to other decks, and then you also have to run Sistemons, which we'll go into more detail about, but those can act as a bit of a brick themselves. Now, while this is a really phenomenal search effect, do note that it does not grab Royal Knights, which is very important for modern day Jesmon to note. I would not run any less than 3 of this card. 4 is the average that you usually will see. The reason that you would argue for 3 is because at a certain point you hit a point of diminishing return where you don't need the search effect any longer. Up next, we have the Huckmon from BT7. It is a play cost of 4, Digivolution cost of 0, 3000 DP, and states inheritable source skill. When attacking once per turn, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck, add all cards with Sistemon in their names among them to your hand, place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this is a really powerful effect, and while it doesn't necessarily get you to your pieces on the get-go, it helps you secure your pieces once you've established a really strong line. You've noticed that the names Sistemon appear over and over and over again in these effects, and we'll talk about that right after this, but I do want to note that this Huckmon grabs all of the Sistemons you reveal, so that means that if you reveal 3 Sistemon, for example, off the effect, you will be able to grab all of them. However, do you know that this will bot deck any other piece that you may have in your deck? So for example, if you have really important level 5s or 6s that you want to grab, you will end up bot decking them, so do be aware of that when you're playing this Huckmon. I would say on average you're probably going to play anywhere from 2 to 4 depending on the variation of your build of this specific Huckmon. This one is really great to evolve into in the raising area in comparison to the BT6 variation because of the extra ESS you do gain. Another version of Huckmon that many English players will not recognize is the Security Promo Huckmon. It is a play cost of 3, Digivolution cost of 0 over red level 2, 2000 DP, and states Security. At the end of the battle, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less. If this effect did not delete a Digimon, draw 1, then add this card to your hand. So this card is not so much Jesmon support as it is just generic red support. If your deck has really bad rookies, for example, you can just slot this in to be a nice little haha surprise security bomb or like a free draw 1. It improves consistency in general. It's not a bad card, it's just if you're running it in an actual Jesmon deck for the purpose of it being the Huckmon name, you have 3 better targets than this for Jesmon, so this is really more so for generic red support if you don't have anything better to run. So for Jesmon, I wouldn't run it. For generic red, I guess depends on how bad your generic red really is. And so the last version of Huckmon is from the Jesmon starter deck itself. It's a play cost of 3, Digivolution cost of 0, 2000 DP, and states, your turn, once per turn, when you play a Digimon with Sistemon in its name, gain 1 memory, and inheritable source skill, all turns while this Digimon has Huckmon in its name, or Royal Knight in its trait, gain plus 1000 DP. This card is actually pretty strong, deceptively so. The plus 1000 DP is very relevant when it comes to the mirror against other Jesmon players, or just if you're looking to beat over certain decks like Black or Greymon in the BT11 format, and then gaining the additional memory can be pretty nice. I would definitely say that you usually don't play any more than 2 of this on average, 3 if you really want to beat the mirror. And so the name Sistemon comes up a lot in the Jesmon and Huckmon effects, and the reason why is because in the lore they were responsible for raising Huckmon into the Royal Knight he would eventually become under the tutelage of Gankumon. And so the Sistermons are kind of like support mons that not only work with Jesmon themselves, but they also work in general with all the Royal Knights because that's just, you know, the archetypal theme. And so there are 3 different Sistermons. In reality, there's only 2 in the TCG itself because CL is the censored version of Noir, because Noir was not allowed in the English version of the Digimon TCG card game, or just any North American or English media in general. And so the first card we're going to go talk about is going to be Sistemon Blanc. Sistemon Blanc from BT6 specifically is a play cost of 3 with 3000 DP. It itself is a level 3, and all turns while you have a Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its type in play, all of your Digimon with Sistemon in their name gains blocker, and on play trigger draw 1. So this is one of your most important pieces for sure. It's an extra consistency boost that's really welcomed in the deck, and for 3 costs, it's not too bad. You'll notice that almost all your consistency pieces in this deck, except for one specific card we'll talk about, does cost 3 or greater, so do keep that in mind when you're making your plays. And this one also gives blocker to your Sistemon. So in the modern day Jesmon build, you can on average spit out anywhere from 2 to 4 Sistemons very easily in a single turn, so you're essentially creating 2 to 4 blockers that can go alongside your large stack Jesmon. So this is absolutely a fantastic card. I would say play anywhere from 2 to 3 depending on how much aggro you need to stave off. The next version of Blanca we're going to talk about is from the Jesmon starter deck. It is a play cost of 3, 3000 DP. It is level 3. States on play by trashing 1 card in your hand, draw 2, and all turns while you have a Digimon in play with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its traits, this Digimon gains decoy for red and black Digimon. So this Blanc is actually very, very powerful. Being able to trash 1 card, while it seems like a weird cost for a Jesmon deck, it actually is totally fine because how your later cards work. And draw 2 is absolutely fantastic to get to your core pieces, and the decoy is very much so appreciated. It gives you immunity against cards like the Death Xmon, which people commonly use against the Jesmon deck. It can also be used against other forms of removal like Iron Fisted Onslaught or Gaia Force. Do note, however, that this is very much so a meta-dependent card in regards to the decoy itself, but overall, the draw 2 is a fantastic addition to have. I find myself playing, on average, just 2 in most of my Jesmon decks across the board. This is a really, really great card. Even if you don't get use of the decoy, the draw 2 alone is really great. Pot agreed, you know? Following up on Blanc, we do have Sistemon CL from BT6. It is a play cost of 4 and 5000 DP. It is a level 4 and states, all turns, all of your Digimon with Huckmon in their names or Royal Knights in their types get plus 2000 DP, and on play, gain 1 memory. So in the Jesmon deck, you'll find a lot of different ways to get out Sistemons without paying their cost, so fundamentally this is a plus 1 memory in most situations. At worst, it's fundamentally a 3 cost to hard slam because you'll get back a 1, so it goes from a 4 to a 3. This card is really powerful both as an offensive and defensive tool. It turns your Jesmons on their attack from 11 to 12k DP to 13 or 14k DP, which is really powerful, and it's also a pretty big number for your opponent to swing over, so it's pretty great at establishing that. Alongside the blocker Blanc, you can create the blocker CL, which then is a 5k DP blocker, or later down the line 7k once we get to those cards. Another utility that this card does have is that if you spit out enough level 4 Sistemons, you are able to Jogress into the Chimeramon, which is an absolutely insane play that you can do in this deck. I would play no less than 2 of the CLs in most Jesmon builds, but on average you're probably playing anywhere from 2 to 3, on average 2. The next version of CL we're going to cover is the CL from the starter deck. It is a 4 cost to play, 5000 DP, and states, on play, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its trait among them to your hand, trash the rest. all turns, all your Digimon with Huckmon in their names and Royal Knight in their traits gain Reboot. This is one of the more interesting Sistemons that you can run. It's very effective as a consistency piece because it can grab most of your deck. Note it does not grab additional Sistemons, but it will trash anything you do not grab. So for the modern version of Jesmon, where you're able to grab certain pieces back from your trash, this is very effective because it fundamentally sets it up as your trash being a secondary hand. The reboot effect is very potent in the GX committed builds where you're just looking to turbo into GX, so that way you can swing the GX and then reboot into the GX, who then functions as a blocker with a ton of different protections surrounding him from the Sistemons of like decoy, blocker, etc. So I would say this Sistemon is really interesting. This one you can probably play anywhere from 0 to 2. If you play the starter deck Jesmon build, you can argue 0 to 1. If you play the GX Turbo build, look to play 2. The next card in the line of Sistemon CL is the CL from BT10. It is a play cost of 4, 5000 DP, and states, on play, if it is your turn, one of your Digivolve may Digivolve into a Digimon card with Royal Knight in its trait in your hand for its Digivolution cost, and you return, once per turn, when one of your Digimon Digivolves into a Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its trait, gain 1 memory. This CL is absolutely insane in terms of combo playmaking because what you're able to do is you're able to use your when attacking abilities which spit out Sistemons, which we'll talk about in a bit, play this Sistemon CL and then immediately Digivolve into a higher form of Jesmon or just a Royal Knight in general. It's absolutely very, very powerful in terms of climbing very fast. Yes, you pass over quite a bit of memory to your opponent while you're doing so, but you're generally making a board that is almost impossible to break for the average deck, so even if you pass over a ton of memory, that's totally fine. And not only that, but this CL also refunds a little bit of that cost, just by itself. So in combination with the CL from BT6, which gives you back 1 memory, in combination with some red memory boost or some other options we'll talk about, this card is absolutely insane. I would play anywhere from 2 to 3. On average, you're playing 2. You probably should play 2, but if you're really crazy and you're really committed to combo, go 3. So for whatever reason, the Sistermons also got a brand new form called the Awakened forms. This is basically them just putting their little hats over their face and then they get some fancy new effects. The first Awakened form that we're going to talk about is going to be the Sistemon Blanc Awakened. It is a level 3 that evolves from a level 3 for 2 cost white, and it has a play cost of 5, 5000 DP, and states, on play, you may place 1 Sistemon Blanc from your hand or trash at the bottom of the Digimon's Evolution cards to recover 1, and on deletion, return 1 card with Jesmon, Huckmon, or Sistemon in its name other than Sistemon Blanc Awakened from your trash to your hand. The on-play is kind of nifty. It's not a lot to ask for the Blanc from your hand or trash in order to proc the recover 1. The recovery is kind of nice. It throws off a lot of math on your opponents, but generally speaking, the finding room for this card can be a bit awkward, especially given the fact that you just want to look to streamline your combo as much as possible. And the on-delete, while it's neat and gives you some recursion, you don't often need the recursion to begin with because your plays oftentimes can facilitate using your trash to begin with. So really you'd be using this only to grab back cards to make a second Jesmon if you need it. So overall, I would say maybe at most play 1 copy of this, but in reality, you're not playing any more than that. Following up, we do have Sistemon CL Awaken. It is a play cost of 6, Digivolution cost of 2 over a white level 4, 6000 DP, and states, on play, you may play 1 Sistemon CL from your hand or trash at the bottom of the Digimon's Digivolution cards to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 5 or less. On deletion, return 1 card with Jesmon, Huckmon, or Sistemon in its name other than Sistemon CL Awaken from your trash to your hand. So this gives Jesmon an additional form of removal in addition to Battle Huckmon, which we'll talk about in a bit. This is a bit harder to proc in comparison to its other form of removal. Not only that, but it makes your ratios a little bit more awkward. I don't realistically think you play this card in Jesmon variants. Even in a situation where you want additional removal, I don't really see a reason to play this when you have much easier access to other forms of removal in the deck. So I would say not worth running at all. Finally, getting into Jesmon's actual level 4s, we do have Bao Huckmon from BT6. It is a play cost of 5, a Digivolution cost of 2 over a red level 3, 6000 DP, and states, inheritable source skill, when attacking, once per turn, if you have a Digimon with Sistemon in its name in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5000 DP or less. This Bao Huckmon is actually really strong. Being able to pop anything with 5000 DP or less means you can pop problematic cards such as opposing blockers or Gankumon and Sistemon, for example. It's a 6000 DP, which means you can swing into your opponent's security if you need earlier chip to proc cards such as the BT7 Huckmon if you need to find your Sistemons. 6000 DP on average is bigger than most level 4s in the game, so you have a really solid chance to survive into certain decks. And with cards like Jesmon of the Blade, which we'll talk about later, you can swing into opponents' stacks if they attempt to not get punished by it. I would play no less than 4 copies of this card in your deck. The next version of Bao Huckmon we're going to talk about is the Bao Huckmon from the Jesmon starter deck. This is a play cost of 5, Digivolution cost 2 over red level 3, 6000 DP, and states ESS, all turns, while this Digimon has Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its trait, get plus 1000 DP. This Bao Huckmon is a lot less important than the other one, it's a lot less versatile, and the plus 1000 DP, while it is nice, on average you don't really need it. The deck that it comes up against the most is versus decks like Black War Greymon and also the Jesmon Mirror match, so if you expect a lot of those, then you can go ahead and play higher copies of this. On average, most players will play 4 copies of this for consistency because you don't play any other level 4 in Jesmon outside of the Bao Huckmons, but you can also go to 3 of this and 4 of the other one if you do want to have a bit more room to add in option cards and such. I will definitely say that cutting this down to 3 is, while a little bit risky, it can pay off in the long run to give you more tech room. Getting into the level 5s of the Jesmon deck, we do have the Savior Huckmon from BT6. It is a play cost of 7, Digivolution cost of 3 over a red level 4, 7000 DP, and states, when Digivolving, you may play 1 Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand without paying its memory cost, and ESS, when attacking, once per turn, if you have a Digimon with Sistemon in its name in play, unsuspend this Digimon. So fun fact, this Savior Huckmon is actually restricted to 1 in both the English and Japanese formats of the Digimon TCG. During its prime in the BT6 format, as well as the BT7 format, it was a really powerful deck that was not very interactive and would sometimes just OTK your opponent without them being able to do anything. You would just swing Jesmon twice, doing all of the damage, have the delicate plan, and then that means that no options can blow back the Jesmon, and then you would just Omnimon per game. And that just really wasn't fun overall. And so, for that reason, we did see Savior Huckmon get hit. Not only that, but it also did restrict future design more than likely. This Savior Huckmon nowadays is actually a lot weaker in comparison to the starter deck version that we're going to talk about. The Wind Digivolving effect is very nice when you combine it with cards like the BT6 CL to become a 2-cost evolution overall, or combine it with the BT10 CL in order to Digivolve into Jesmon, without passing turn fully. You can do some really cool plays with that, and the ESS is pretty nifty, being able to restand. It's almost like a pseudo reboot. More often than not, though, with modern day Jesmon, you actually end up passing your turn on the swing, and then on the following turn, you can get more value with this ability. But overall, play 1 if you want, but you can actually get away with running 0 of this card, frankly. I think the biggest reason you run 1 copies of this card is to have the additional Savior Huckmon in your deck, just being a Huckmon name in general. So that's a level 5 that you can search in comparison to, say, adding a Metal Greymon or adding a Chimeramon, cards that you can't grab actually. So this is more so a consistency piece than it is for its effect. Now, the better level 5 in the Jesmon deck is the Savior Huckmon from the starter deck. It is a play cost of 7 with a Digivolution cost of 3 over level 4 red and 7000 DP. States, when Digivolving, this Digimon may also attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon for the turn, and ESS, when attacking, once per turn, if this Digimon has Royal Knight in its trait, you may play 1 Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand or trash without paying its memory cost. This card is an absolutely insane level 5. Its when Digivolving effect is really strong, and it sounds kind of weird out of context if you only look at this card by itself, but in the context of the entire archetype, it gets really powerful, especially when you combine it with the starter deck Jesmon and the Jesmon GX we'll talk about later down the line. They will allow you to essentially replicate the Judgment of the Blade, which is an option card, which again, we'll talk about down the line. And its ESS, being able to summon a Sistemon from both hand or trash is absolutely insane, because this facilitates additional consistency in your deck. It lets you play those cards for free without paying their cost, and then you can still proc their on-play effects. So whether that's like Blanc's discard 1, draw 2, or whether it's BT10 CL ability to Digivolve, there's a lot of different lines and combo paths that you can replicate using this card. I would say you have to play 4. There's no way you can cut this any less than that if you're trying to play Jesmon. finally, what everyone's been waiting for, we're going to start talking about the level 6s in the Jesmon deck. And with this video, we're going to cover the Jesmon Megas as well as the Gankumon, which specifically support the Jesmons themselves. So we're not going to only be covering BT6 Gankumon, but we will cover starter deck Gankumon as well as the BT10 Gankumon. So without further ado, Jesmon from BT6 is 11 play cost, Digivolution cost 3 over red level 5, 11,000 DP, and states, when attacking, you may play one Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand or trash without paying its memory cost. Your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon, this Digimon gets plus 3,000 DP and piercing for the turn. So this Jesmon, when you read it, it doesn't sound super impressive. Yes, you get to play a Sistemon for free, and then you get plus 3,000 DP and piercing, and that's cool and everything. But it's in combination with everything else. It's in combination with what the Sistemons themselves offer, in combination with what your inheritables offer, as well as your higher top end, that suddenly turn this card into a much stronger force. This, in comparison to its starter deck variation, is not as explosive. This is a much more consistent card, given the fact that it costs 3 to evolve into, whereas the starter deck one, when we cover that, it will cost 4. So being able to digivolve into this card for 3 does mean you can sometimes not pass a turn and then make your play, which can be pretty potent, but at the same time, the other one, it does have a bit of a workaround in terms of passing your turn over despite being cost 4. In modern day Jesmon variants, you will not see any list play this because you have to fit all your other level 6s, but if you wanted to play a dedicated super hardcore role-playing Jesmon build, I don't think this is the worst card ever to run, but realistically you're not going to be playing any copies of this card. Now the better version of base Jesmon is from the starter deck. It is play cost of 12, the Digivolution cost 4 over red level 5, 12,000 DP, and states, when Digivolving Blitz. When attacking, you may play one Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand without paying its memory cost. Your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon by an effect, this Digimon gets plus 3,000 DP and gains plus 1 security attack. So, first and foremost, the Blitz is what makes this card work, despite having the the evolution cost of 4. Even though you pass the turn, you're still getting off your attack, which means you're actually much faster than the other version of Jesmon from the BT6. And do know that this one can only play Sistemons from your hand, whereas the other one plays from both hand and trash. That's actually a very big difference, and you have to keep that in mind when you're messing around with your stuff. And then the plus 3,000 DP as well as the plus 1 security attack is very, very useful in order to push for damage, and do note that it's until the end of the turn. So when you use the BT10 Sistemon CL, you are getting the plus 3,000 DP and the plus 1 security attack to carry over. I would definitely say this card is very, very strong, depending on the variation of Jesmon you are playing. For example, if you are playing the starter deck Jesmon variant, you're going to play 3 copies of this card, and if you're playing the GX Turbo version of the deck, you're probably playing anywhere from 0 to 1 copy of this card just to minimize the cost and number of cards you need for the combo. So this is a very fast, very tempo-oriented aggro card, so do keep that in mind when you're building your deck. The next level 6 we're going to talk about is Gankumon from the starter deck Jesmon. It is a play cost of 12, Digivolves for 3 over red level 5 or black level 5, 11,000 DP, and states, when Digivolving, you may play one Huckmon or one Digimon card with Sistemon in its name in your trash without paying its cost. Your turn, once per turn, when you play another Digimon by an effect, Digivolve 1 up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon. This Gankumon is actually very interesting. For one, it can't play cards from the hand, it only plays from the trash. And then the D-Digivolve is a pretty interesting ability because not a lot of decks are using D-Digivolve in the current format. D-Digivolve is a form of removal, or form of control rather, that not a lot of decks have immunity to. Like, you can have immunity to popping, bouncing, DP reduction, but D-Digivolve is very scarce. Only one deck currently in the game has immunity to that D-Digivolve effect. So that's a rather interesting use that Gankumon may apply to the Jesmon deck. So if you're looking for an out to specific problem cards like Sistemon, Gankumon may pose to be a pretty interesting tech. Do note, however, that this Digimon can also do the same function as the starter deck Jesmon, where you can play those Sistemon CLs or Blancs while passing the turn over, because it's the when Digivolving effect. So you can still make some pretty insane plays. I definitely would say on the average build, you would not play any copies of this card because you just want more copies of your other level 6s. But if you're looking specifically to tech this card into certain matchups, maybe anywhere anywhere from 1 to 2 copies of this card. Before we can talk about the next level 6s in the Jesmon line, we have to talk about what X antibody is first. The X antibody is a special program that certain Digimon are able to undergo in order to survive Yggdrasil's pruning process, if you will, and in doing so they become either a lot spikier or just sometimes a lot weirder in general, but for the most part they become overall spikier, and that rule of thumb applies very heavily to the Jesmon line themselves. And so the first level 6 that we're going to talk about with the X antibody is Jesmon X. Jesmon X is evolving from 3 costs over level 5 red. It's a play cost of 12, 11,000 DP, or it costs 0 to digivolve over a Jesmon. It has inherent piercing, and when digivolving, you may play 1 Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand or trash without paying its play cost. Then, if Jesmon is in this Digimon's Digivolution card, or if you have a Digimon with Sistemon in its name in play, until the end of your opponent's turn, all of your Digimon may also attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon and gain plus 2,000 DP. Jesmon X antibody is actually such an insane card that a lot of people don't realize what its general application can do outside of using it as a bridgeway into the GX. For one, having inherent piercing is pretty nice because outside of Jesmon BT6 and GX, you don't have any other ways to access that. And the when digivolving, being able to summon a sister from hand or trash is really flexible and versatile. You can evolve over regular Jesmon into this for 0 cost, so if you use the BT10 CL, you can use this as a bridgeway, and then you can also get the plus 2,000 DP, which bolsters the rest of your board. Your Sistemons then become 5,000 as Blanc or 7,000 as CL, which then have blocker, decoy, etc. You also get the ability to have a Judgment of the Blade-like effect to swing into your opponent's much larger Digimon. Overall, X Antibody is a fantastic card. I would play likely 2 copies of this in the regular Jesmon build, and then 3 copies in the Jesmon GX Turbo build. But yeah, this is a really fantastic card. Just, you have to play some number of this. The next spiky boy we're going to talk about is Gankumon X Antibody from BT10. It is a play cost of 13 with a Digivolution cost of 4 over a red level 5 or a black level 5, 12,000 DP. It has a special condition digivolving for 1 over Gankumon and states it has blocker inherent, as well as when digivolving, you may play 1 Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand or trash without paying its play cost. Then, if Gankumon is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, or if you have a Digimon with Sistemon in its name in play, until the end of your opponent's turn, all of your Digimon get plus 2,000 DP, and your opponent's effects cannot return them to hand or deck or reduce their DP. Gankumon X Antibody is actually such an insane card. This is probably your best level 6 overall. Gankumon X Antibody not only functions as a blocker to stave off some aggro, so you can actually evolve into the Gankumon X Antibody and pass turn on that, which maintains a really solid board presence while you're trying to build up the rest of your power, so you can look for pieces and such, but also getting out a free body from your trash or hand is really nice in terms of consistency, and then having those bodies get the plus 2,000 DP as well as not being able to be bounced, bot decked, or DP reduced means that your board is actually very hard to break overall. If you have the blocker Sistemon or the decoy Sistemon, it's actually even much more difficult to break the board. Gankumon X Antibody overall is just such an insane card. I think in regular Jesmon builds you probably run anywhere from 2 to 3, but in GX Turbo builds you're definitely playing 3, maybe even 4 honestly. But this card is chef's kiss. And now for the spikiest boy of them all, Jesmon GX. Jesmon GX is a play cost of 15. He has Digivolution cost of 5 over red level 6 or black level 6. 15,000 DP, special condition, Digivolve for 5 from level 6 with Royal Knight in its traits. When Digivolving, you may place 1 card with Royal Knight in its traits and a play cost of 13 or less from your hand or trash under this Digimon at its bottom of its Digivolution card. Activate one of that card's when Digivolving effect as if it's this Digimon's own effect, then Blitz. All turns, while a Digimon Royal Knight in its trait is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, the Digimon gains Piercing and Blocker and gains +1 security attack for each such card. Jesmon GX is the giant amalgamation of all the Royal Knights thrown together once they were fighting Agudamon X and they were losing, and they were like, ah yes, our final chance is Jesmon, take our power, brrr. So Jesmon GX, because of that lore reason, has the ability to take on the traits and properties of all the other Royal Knights. Jesmon GX sees play not only in Jesmon builds, but we've also seen it in decks such as Magnamon X and more than likely future Royal Knights as well. The Jesmon GX ability to copy any Wind Digivolving effect is so absurdly powerful, it reads like an anime card, to be honest with you. If you copy Gankumon X's ability, then you get Gankumon X's protection ability with the plus 2000 DP. If you copy, for example, say Dynasmon, you can do some really nifty shenanigans. You can copy really anything with Wind Digivolving. All forces, play a blue tamer, bounce, blah blah blah. You know, like it goes on and on and on. But the main gist of this and what I'm trying to get at is the fact that if you have, say, Gankumon X and you digivolve into it and you play BT10CL, and then BT10CL goes ahead and then digivolves into GX, and then GX copies a Jesmon X or a Ganku X, and then you have a plus 4000 to your entire board, DP, bounce, and bot deck immunity, and you also blitz. And because Jesmon GX has blitz, that means you can actually not run the ST Jesmon because you still retain the blitz at the end of the day. And with Jesmon GX, you're still swinging for usually at minimum 2 security, 3 security. It's a lot. You have piercing and blocker as well. The reboot CL gives you a lot of utility with this card. Overall, GX it's an anime card. It's an anime boss card, and you can't convince me otherwise. I think for the average player, I would suggest you honestly play 3 copies of this card. You treat this like Alphamon Oryukin for the Alphamon BT9 deck. If you don't see Oryukin, the deck kind of just flops. Same way, if you don't see GX, then the Jesmon deck flops. Yes, you could play 2, I guess, if you are really afraid of the consistency issues. But overall, GX is such an insane card. If you get into the GX with the combo, you more or less win the game half the time. It's so insanely difficult to break a board with GX after establishing itself. Like, I don't know. This card really is just dumb, honestly. Alright, so we're finally done with talking about all the actual main Digimon in the deck, which, by the way, was an absolute mouthful. So we're going to top it off with the options. And the first option we're going to talk about is the first Jesmon option we got in BT6, Judgment of the Blade. Judgment of the Blade is a 1-cost red option that states, main phase, one of your Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its type can attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon for the turn. Security effect, you may play 1 Digimon card with Sistemon in its name from your hand or trap without paying its cost, then add this card to your hand. Judgment of the Blade is very deceptively a very powerful card. If you don't have a lot of ways to access the Jesmon X ability, then you want to rely a little bit more on Judgment of the Blade to guarantee that you can remove more problematic boards. Judgment of the Blade as a main effect is very powerful in Jesmon deck itself, but you can also tech it in other Royal Knight decks. For example, I've seen Lord Nightmon with the hero Monokawa use this, so then they can swing into certain targets, call out Digimon, and then pop just entire boards while swinging into certain things. And then the security effect is also very absurd because then you can play certain cards like BT6 CL, which then gives you back a memory and potentially just passes the turn in general. Or you can play Blanc and set up blocker. So Judgment of the Blade, nowadays, it's not as strong of a card as it was during its BT7 iteration. In BT7 iteration, you're playing anywhere from 2 to 3 Judgment of the Blade, but nowadays in modern format, you're playing probably 0 to 1 depending on your Jesmon X ratio. Following up, we have the option card from the Jesmon starter deck, Os Generics. It's a 1-cost red option that states, one of your Digimon gets plus 2000 DP for the turn, then if you have a Digimon with Huckmon in its name or Royal Knight in its trait, gain 1 memory, and one of your Digimon gains piercing for the turn. Security effect, gain 1 memory and add this card to its owner hand. So this card, with how the deck works out, is for the most part a 0-cost gain piercing, and then security effect, you can gain a memory, so sometimes it can act as like a cheeky Hammer Spark or Ice Wall, and then you add it to your hand. But overall, you don't really need the additional piercing just because of the fact that GX already has piercing built in, or if you really needed X antibody from Jesmon. So this is just taking up an extra slot in your deck that can go anywhere really. It could be an extra Judgment of the Blade, red memory boost, even a Tamer. So overall, you're not going to play this card. Even in dedicated hardcore role-playing Jesmon builds, you don't really have a use for this card, because even in those builds, if you wanted to, BT6 Jesmon already has piercing, so not worth it. Arguably the most important option in the entire Jesmon deck, we have the 2-cost red option from Master to Disciple. Main effect, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Huckmon or Sistemon or Royal Knight in their trait among them to your hand, trash the rest, and then place this card in your battle area. Main phase, delay. You can't activate this effect the turn this card enters play. The next time one of your Digimon would digivolve this turn, reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. Security effect, reveal the 3 cards on the top of your deck, add 1 card with Huckmon, Sistemon, or Royal Knight in its traits among them to your hand, trash the rest, and place this card in your battle area. For Master to Disciple is an really good card. It's fundamentally a 2-cost memory booster, which you don't get 2 memory, it acts as 1 memory in the grand scheme of things, but it can't be blocked by memory blockers, which is really strong. Not only that, but it grabs a lot of your pieces and it puts the rest into your trash, which then acts as fodder for your Savior Huckmon effect, your Ganku X, Jesmon X, and GX effect. So for example, if you find the Ganku X, you can dump it in the trash, assuming you have another Royal Knight in your hand already, and then you can grab it back using Jesmon GX's effect. So overall, this is such an insane consistency booster. You can't play any less than 4. You have to play 4 at all times of this card. It's just way too good for what it does for the Jesmon deck overall. Being able to reduce the cost for Digivolution by 1 also means that you can reduce the combo cost for the GX, as overall from 5 to 4, you can turn Ganku X from 4 to 3, and so on and so forth. With the BT6 Savior, if you use this first, Digivolve into BT6 Savior, and then play out the BT6 CL, you can actually go into your Savior for 1 memory overall, which means you haven't passed the turn yet, and then you can keep extending your plays, which is very niche in the grand scheme of things, but it's such a really powerful combo that if you pull it off, you're usually very ahead of the game. So again, like I said, you have to play 4 at all times. The next option we're going to talk about is the 3-cost white option, Seiken Meppa from the BT10 set. While you have a Digimon Royal Knight in its trait in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirements. Main effect: unsuspend one of your Digimon, then if that Digimon is Jesmon GX, activate one of its Wind Digivolving effects. Security: add this card to your owner's hand. So in the grand scheme of things, this is actually a really interesting card for Royal Knight decks. For example, with Oryuken, you could have Oryuken swing upwards of 3 times now with the Oryu. With Jesmon, you can reuse its GX effect, so then you can get a Ganku X proc again and such. So even after your opponent survives the 1 turn of GX, then you can set up another GX setup. So it's just a really interesting extender. For the most part, in the current EX3 format, it's more or less a win more card. However, going forward into BT11 and upward, you might have to run this card just to match the speed and power that new decks are having introduced. So this is a very strong card that is going to scale in the future as we get more Royal Knights. As of right now, in December 25th, 2022, BT13 has announced support for multiple Royal Knights, so this card may become even stronger in the future. So at the moment, I would say if you can fit it, it's probably a 1-of at most. The last piece of support for the Jesmon archetype is Quake Blast Fire Father. It is a 7-cost black option that states while you have a Digimon with Huckmon or Sistemon or Royal Knight in its trait in play, you can use this card without meeting its color requirements. Main effect: delete one of your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 13 or less. Security effect: activate this card's main effect. I mean, why? You really don't need this card. In the grand scheme of things, you can remove most threats without having to resort to a 7-cost option. Even if you do need additional option removal, you're probably just going to end up using a card like Gaia Force, which is non-conditional, doesn't require you to have anything on board set up, and you can just pop even level 7 threats. So in general, this is probably a card that will never see play in comparison to Gaia Force. On the screen is the list that one of my mods, Falcon, used to top at a most recent regional. This is a Jesmon GX Turbo list that focuses purely on getting into your Jesmon GX combo as fast as possible. It does not run ST Jesmon because that is an additional piece in the combo step that you want to try and mitigate. We also do run Sakudomon because Sakudomon will give you +1 memory back when you go into the Jesmon GX, thus making the combo even cheaper. So try this list out, and yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to let me know how you like this video format. If this is something that you would like to see for other archetypes as well, just let me know down in the comments below, and let me know what archetypes you would like to see. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you for watching.